In this video, there's going to be nothing but the truth. And a lot of the times, it's going to be very challenging for some people to understand and to accept some of these things that are going to be said. But in this video, I want to talk about and really call out the monitoring spirits and the narcissists that want to ensure that you do not stay rooted in the Bible, that you do not stay rooted in God, and that you do not stay rooted in who you really are. Now, before we go on further with the topic for today, I do want to remind everybody that the male and female group sessions for the 7 Deadly Sins will be next weekend. And if you want to have more information about that, feel free to click on the Regal Change Academy link in the description box below. Now, before we also get started as well, I'd like to read a Bible verse from 2 Timothy 1:7. And it says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind." Now, when you are spiritually uninspired, what you are really lacking is the power of love and the ability to have a sound mind. Well, what exactly does it mean to have a sound mind? Like, why does the Bible phrase it in such a way like that? What exactly does it mean to have a sound mind? It means to have a mind that hears everything around you clearly. It's like when the water is completely still in a lake or something, or a pond, and when you drop a rock into the lake or the pond, and there's that clear bloop, that clear ripple effect that echoes into the lake itself. And so a lot of the times with these monitoring spirits and narcissists, what they're really trying to do is make sure that you are being strayed from your path. And you might be around certain kinds of people where you're going to be feeling as though you're like spiritually, how would you say? It's like you're spiritually in a desert. There's no water, there's no life there. But all of a sudden, when you become closer to God and you get closer with God and you connect with the source of creation itself, the Creator, all of a sudden there's this spiritual life and water around you. You feel stronger. You feel more dedicated. You feel more disciplined. There's a certain sense of belonging as well that you may not always get when you're around monitoring spirits. But the whole goal of any kind of monitoring spirit is to push you toward isolation and to push you into areas of persistent negativity. If you can be around persistent negativity, you're not going to be able to be closer or be brought closer to joy. It is the purpose of God's people to bring others closer to joy and their naturalness, their natural qualities of life, which is joy, which is peace. Have you ever looked at a baby and seen what it's like for the baby to have that complete innocence about it? You know, there is a complete innocence to this baby. That is a pure consciousness. And when you have that sense of purity about yourself, if you can get to the point of purity when you are an adult, where you still accept that you have an ego, you still accept that you've had your experiences, you still accept all of these things, but you're not disassociating yourself from the moment at hand. And in another line of this same topic, I also want to talk about spiritual disassociation. A lot of the times when you're dealing with monitoring spirits, they're going to almost encourage you to disassociate yourself from yourself. And the reason for that is because they want to ensure that there's a restlessness about you. And there's no there's no telling what lengths these monitoring spirits will go. Monitoring spirits are basically, if you want to put it in practicality terms, monitoring spirits are basically people that like to sow seeds of doubt, seeds of fear, and seeds of misrepresentation, seeds of attacking your self esteem, seeds of attacking your confidence. Everything that these monitoring spirits do is derived from a place of anything but integrity. And something that I've noticed when dealing with monitoring spirits, the best way to go about it is to stay close to God. Well, how do you stay close to God if these monitoring spirits are trying to steer you away from God? You have to 100% dedicate yourself to your spiritual practice. And it's difficult to do that when you do feel like you're spiritually in a desert. It is difficult to do that when you feel like there's no spiritual water around you. When there's no spiritual water around you, it's like it's hard to move, right? You do get that feeling of dissatisfaction of life, perhaps even chaos to some degree. But it's not a particularly nice feeling. And so you stay connected with God by communicating with God. And sometimes God's going to be silent during these times because what you're going through is a trial of some kind. And you might think to yourself, well, why does God allow these kinds of trials? Why is God putting me through this hell? Well, the truth is that you've done something in your past to be in this place and time. Now, you may not be experiencing this as a punishment. In fact, a lot of the times, you might be completely innocent. Now, of course, we've all sinned, and I know I have. I'm a flawed man. I'm not perfect, but I know that a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with in my past, and even nowadays, I don't always feel like I have deserved that. I didn't really feel like I deserved to be treated that way. Like I showed these people nothing but respect, and I got spat on in return spiritually. What was that all about? What was the whole point of going through all these hardships just to be on the other side of repentance and acknowledging the truth, and yet feeling as though the truth wasn't justified? We're always told that God is a just God and God is a merciful God, and which he is. But it sure doesn't feel like that when you're on dealing with a narcissistic person or a monitoring spirit. I actually don't really, I was thinking about this a little bit before the video before I started the video, but I really don't know or understand really myself the difference between a monitoring spirit and a narcissist to one degree or another, because the reason for it, because some people have differentiated the two, and I don't think that's necessary. Every monitoring spirit that I've encountered has been some kind of form of narcissist. And it's also been the case that they've done one of two things. They try to influence you out of your faith in yourself, or they try to influence you into the ways of sin. And either one of those is not a really good quality to have. And yes, it is the case that sometimes people that are just weaker in their vessel, like they don't have the spiritual callous and the spiritual fortitude to withstand certain kind of spiritual attacks. But at the same time, it it really does seem to be some kind of form of narcissism that is a derivative factor and a distinct factor in all of these monitoring spirits. And so one of the other things about monitoring spirits, as far as like signs to look out for and what to do, like how do you deal with these kinds of spirits? Well, some kind of spiritual purification is needed on your end. You must go through some kind of spiritual purification, whether that is through fasting, whether that is through persistent prayer, even if you don't feel like praying, even if you don't feel like it's the right thing to do. One of the most important things that I found is even just the act of prayer itself is going to be helpful to you, because your mind does change and does become almost in an altered state when you're praying. And recently, when I was praying about certain things that I've done, and I was praying to God about, haven't I done everything that you've asked me in this realm? Like, do you really want more from me with this? Because I'm willing to go through more, but like, really? Like, really, God, is this really happening? You really want me to go through all with this? Yeah, like you're really, look, I trust you, but I'm kind of I'll walk by faith here. I have no other choice, it seems, because the decision that you're leading me toward is not making sense. And yet it's almost as if I don't partake that path, I'm going to be completely monitored by these people even more so. And make no mistake, guys, these monitoring spirits, if they had security cameras like in your car or where you go places every day, like they would do it. And it's not just because like they have an unhealthy obsession with you. That's really what it comes down to. It's an unhealthy obsession. And so sometimes, like I've noticed this when I'm going to certain places at certain times. Like I go to the coffee shop at a certain time usually, and I like to stay a certain amount of time as well. I'm a very routine kind of person. I do switch things up here and there, but I like to keep a routine, and it keeps me sane. It keeps me grounded that way. And I've noticed that sometimes people will start to show up at certain times that you're there, and that's when I know that I need to change my routine a bit, is because sometimes people will feel like they know you when they know what you do as far as your routine. And that's not the case, right? It's not the case. Like, you're not your routine. You're something more. And so a lot of the times when you're going through your roles, whether it's at work, when you go to work, maybe you have lunch at a certain time, and then you go get a tea or a coffee at that place at that time, and sooner or later people are going to start to catch on and watch you if you're not, like, if you're like a too low profile. And it's not like you're trying to be super low profile. You just are. I know that's how I live my life. I don't like to like boast about where I'm going or where I'm headed. And in fact, in the male group session for the 7 Deadly Sins yesterday, an individual was talking about this very thing. He was saying that he's learned that even when he's successful, he doesn't need to be loud. And even when he's not successful, like he's going through a rough patch, he doesn't need to be loud either. And that is very wise. And I highly encourage people to understand that kind of mindset. Because sometimes it's really good to celebrate. I mean, I have no problem with celebration. But too often people want to celebrate too much. Like they'll celebrate this day because it's like chocolate day or something, or they'll celebrate tomorrow because it's pie day, or it's just there's so many different kinds of celebrations. People are almost always looking for an excuse to celebrate. And sometimes it's better to just celebrate with those that you actually know are on your team, that you actually know you're building something with. And so when you are dealing with monitoring spirits as well, it is absolutely necessary that you do not let people know, if they're monitoring spirits around you, that there's any kind of success going on. Because sometimes they're going to do everything they can to sabotage your success. And that's where you need to put on the full armor of God and make sure that you stay inspired. Now, sometimes, even like if you're feeling uninspired, what really is going on is you're not aligned spiritually. That's what being inspired means. You're in spirit, right? So if you are inspired, that means that you are acting in the spirit. But if you're not feeling inspired, then you are not participating in life with the power of love and a sound mind, as we mentioned earlier with 2 Timothy 1:7. Now, in regards more to how to fight against these monitoring spirits, another thing that you can do is strengthen your natural spiritual callus. And that takes actual spiritual warfare. So you have to actually participate in spiritual warfare. Sometimes it's good to be just silent. It's not bad advice to just sit down, grind, put your nose to the grind, and just go. Especially if you're a man in your early 20s or mid 20s, hell, even into your 30s. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But sooner or later, you're going to have to start communicating with people. You're going to have to grow a network. You're going to have to grow certain things in order to get certain things done. I know for a fact I would not be here without the spiritual warfare that I went through. If it wasn't for the spiritual warfare that I went through, I wouldn't have the insight to understand how to maneuver through these kinds of things. And so a lot of the times, especially with women, if they want to come back into your life, but you know that things didn't work out for a reason. We'll just leave it at that. Things didn't work out for a reason. And they want to come back into your life. It's not always as simple as like this. There's a woman that wants to come back into your life. No, there's an entity, there's a spirit that wants to suck up your life force again. That's what's really going on, and that's the way that you have to look at it. And some people may think that that's a bit extreme, but look, if you are truly a spiritual person and you are not spiritually disassociated from yourself, you will absolutely understand what I'm saying, and you will absolutely not think twice to look at it in that way. You have to look at that person that wants to come back into your life and take your life force, whether it's a male or female, that maybe it's like a romantic partner from the past or whatever. You have to look at that as a spiritual entity that wants to take your soul, because that's exactly what it is. And that sounds kind of nuts to people that are not in the truth. They don't like to think of life like that. It's far more like ones and zeros. They like the binary kind of system, right? There, it's a 1 or a 0. It's a 1 or a 0. It's black or it's white. No. When you are truly entrenched and fully putting on the armor of God, and you are within the power of love and a sound mind, you completely understand that this whole world that we live in is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. And these videos that I'm making are going to transcend time. Any other video, any other content creator out there, whoever's making any kind of video that has made it in the past has already transcended time. Like, you can go back and watch videos of World War II. You can go back and watch videos of of any kind of TV show in the 50s. You can watch any kind of bodybuilding uh, Olympias or whatever they're called. They're called Olympias, I think. But you can go watch these videos from years and years ago. And what you're doing is you're glimpsing into a portal of time. We're only now beginning to realize what the spiritual world really is. And it's up to us, people that can see, people that can hear, people that have the power of love within them, people that have a sound mind. It's up to us to cleanse out these spirits by speaking the truth into being. And that's the way that you deal with a lot of these monitoring spirits. That's the way that you deal with narcissists, is you speak the truth into being and you leave it as it is. And sometimes it's better to just walk away from the whole situation altogether, because any kind of piece of information you give these monitoring spirits or narcissists, you best believe they're going to accuse you, they're going to persecute you, and you will be poor in spirit. But what does Jesus say about the poor in spirit in the Sermon on the Mount? He says that blessed are the poor in spirit. Why? Why are the poor in spirit going to be blessed? Because they recognize that they're poor in spirit. They recognize that they need salvation. And until you can have the humility to accept that maybe you're not all that fucking cool as you thought, well, that's when everybody starts to gravitate toward you in some way, as strange as it is. You're not necessarily it's like you still need to have a sense of who you are, though. You still have to have and keep yourself at your mental point of origin. And you have to have humility, yes. But you also don't need to let go of your ambition, and you do not need to let go of your drive in order to have humility. And sometimes, like I've been told in the past that I have a strong personality, or that I'm a lot to handle sometimes. And to that I say, look, if you are not going to be able to handle what I say, that's on you, because I'm just being who I am. And it's not even the case that I'm trying to overload anybody. It's just that people can't handle these kinds of talks. Like, people can't handle these kinds of discussions. They don't want to. When was the last time you heard a narcissist wanting to learn more about themselves? When was the last time you heard a narcissist wanting to repent from their sins? It doesn't happen. Not to a true narcissist. It doesn't happen. And monitoring spirits, make no mistake, if you don't have the spiritual grounding, they're going to try to take advantage of this. They're going to try to take advantage of you. And it's not necessarily that you are weak when this happens. It's just that you haven't really encountered malevolence. And you're about to find out. And when you do, you'll understand the difference between true malevolence, true evil. Because monitoring spirits and narcissists, they operate from a spirit of destruction. Like I said earlier, they want to sow seeds of doubt and fear. That's not the fruit of the Spirit. And even though we only fear God as God's people, the reason that we fear God is because we fear what we would do what would happen to us if we didn't follow God. That's why we fear God. And in the Bible it also says, lean not unto thine own understanding, but unto God's, right? So, with that being said, take care of yourself. Make sure if you think somebody is a monitoring spirit, they're trying to watch you, they're trying to get information out of you, they're asking you super weird questions, be truthful. Be truthful. But you don't need to be super specific. You don't need to give out all of the details of what your life is out and about. So with that being said, peace be with you. Till next time.